when I don't have my kids being like, okay, well, what now? Right.
Yes.
Which has led me to finding other interests, right? Like now I'm doing brunches with the girls. So like when I say I'm outside, it's not like I'm outside trying to be wild, but it's like, well, the kids aren't here, so now is my time to network, to go to brunches, to go to day parties, or to experience new things. I want to do like horseback riding and like all these different things I want to try now. I can do those things when they're gone for the amount of time that they're with their father, right? And experience that. So I would imagine on a grander scale, when you're empty nesting, now it's like, okay, well, what do I like to do? And I think circling back to the conversation, even of why I started Sexy After Kids, a lot of it is mom life balance because eventually everyone's kids grow up. They
It's true.
grow up, they move on. And then what do you do at that point? Like from do you know what I'm saying? Ideally, you don't want to lose yourself, but like how do you get back to finding out what you enjoy? Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of You're Gonna Need a Drink for This. It is a Sexy After Kids Momcast. I am your host, Apple Daniels, and I am back today with my girl, Lynette. It's
Hey,
just
good
the two of
people.
us. It's just the two of us. How you feeling?
You know what? I'm all right. I'm all
Me
right today.
too. Me
I had a
too. It's
very good
all
day,
good. So you
right?
know the drill. Before I get started, I'm gonna ask you what is in your cup today?
So listen. To go with the new background, I have some sweet
Okay.
red. We're not gonna say who it's by,
Okay.
sponsored, but yes,
We
in my
didn't
blue
we didn't
glass.
we didn't talk. Let's talk about this background a little bit. What we got going here? Let's see.
So listen. So first of all, the theme of my house is blue. So what I did was I got some abstract art because I love art, right? So that was that, and then I got some plants, just a little decoration, just to give it a little something. And then on the shelf here, I have like my 6 favorite books,
Mhm.
and that's kind of it. I have my little setup here, and I'm ready to go.
I like it. I like
Thank
it a
you.
lot. It looks nice. Well, in my cup today, my glass. Oh, I have a new
Right.
mic. You like my new mic?
Listen. You better come through,
We
professional.
fancy. We no longer in the corner over here hiding. We gotta
Right.
so y'all could hear me really well. No. So I'm actually drinking chocolate wine. Um,
Oh,
yeah, no brand, obviously. It's a dessert wine, and I like it. It's more of like on the port end, so it's really thick. It has like really good legs on it, and yeah, that is my drink of choice. I was in the mood for chocolate today,
oh, very
so
nice.
yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, today we are talking empty nesting, which is going to be like a really interesting topic because both of us are in two separate phases of that. So I have teenagers, but more on the beginning phase of teenaging. But is teenaging a word? Can I
It
say
is
that?
now because
Okay.
it is
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Clock it. I made it up.
Come
Teenaging.
come through Urban
So
Dictionary.
I want my credit. But
Right.
yeah, so I'm on the beginning phase, right, of the teenagers. So kind of in the beginning to mid. I have a 13-year-old and I have two 16-year-olds. So we're kind of in that phase. But you are getting ready to do this whole empty nest thing where, life is starting anew and kids is legal and you get to move forward and do whatever. But I kind of feel like because I co-parent and my kids are only here technically for half of the month, I somewhat get to empty nest a little bit, just a little bit, you know?
Yeah, it's a thing. But it's a thing, but you know what? I feel like because like when your kids are not home, you kind of start getting that feeling like, oh my God, there's like literally no one here but me. So like
Yeah.
imagine how that feels when they're gone. And for me, because I'm almost there literally, it's like, okay, so in like 2 seconds, this is gonna be my life. It's not gonna be a thing.
Mhm,
It's okay, because I'm not co-parenting.
mhm.
Okay. So there's that. But my thing is, my daughter goes to, her grandmother's or whatever on the weekend. And so from Friday to Sunday is literally just me. But now that she's 17, and she's the last baby, I'm kind of like, oh my God. So when she's gone away to college, this is going to be my life moving forward. So It's crazy. It's so
I
crazy.
mean, so like what is the general feeling? Like how do you feel? Like how does that make you feel, you know?
Well,
Are you
honestly,
excited? Are you scared? Are you I mean, because again, to your point that you made, it is a little bit different, right? So when my kids are gone, so let me say this. I know when I first got divorced and I moved into my place, right? And my kids were
mhm,
gone that first weekend, it was really weird. Like the house was, I could hear everything that was going on. And it took me a
mhm,
long time to adjust. And even sometimes now when they're gone, it's kind of like, I don't know how feel about this, right? The house is much more lively, but I think the difference between where I am and where you are is I have an expectation that they're coming back. Like I know what day
mhm.
they're coming back. So no matter how I feel about how quiet the house is, or if I get bored, or if I don't have anything to do, or whatever, I know they're coming back home versus empty nesting when your kids move out completely.
That's it.
That's a totally different feeling, and
That's it.
you've been parenting for so long that you're kinda like, "Okay, well, what now?" Right? Like, are
Mhm.
you having feelings of like, "Well, what's next? What now? What do I do?" Like, where are you at with that?
Well, yeah, because so I've been raising kids. I had my son when I was 21. I had my daughter when I was 30. So now I'm going to be 47. So you figure all of these years there have been kids, and with kids come responsibilities, after school activities, homework, whatever the case may be. And my son, he'll be 26 this year. So he's already out the house. My
Mhm.
daughter is 17, so we have literally less than a year to go before she hits 18. So I'm like, okay, you know, and I tend to be more active in my life when she's around. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Because we're running places, we're doing things, she has her activities and whatnot. So I find myself more active when she's around versus when she's not around. It's kind of like, okay, Lynette, so now what? And then
Yeah.
coming to think like, okay, one day it's not going to just be a weekend away. It's going to be like, for either a while, at least a couple years while she's away at college or something of that nature. And then she's going to have her own life, which is fine. I'm not that parent that's like, well, no, you have to be near me and whatever the case may be. So right now I'm literally going through now what? What do I want to do? What do I like to do? It's almost like you have to remotivate yourself
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
do certain things because it's one thing to have to be motivated because your children have needs and wants and things, but it's another thing to have to remotivate yourself because you're like, okay, I probably should be doing something with my life right about now. You know.
That's a big thing because let me tell you, even without me being an empty nester. When you're married and you have like this responsibility of an entire household, right? And you have this other adult that you kind of have to compromise with and check in with. And so you can't just get up and leave the house. You can't just get up and do things, right? Because you
You
have
didn't
this
know
other
my marriage.
person. What?
You didn't know my marriage.
Oh,
Go ahead.
well, listen, but I mean,
I get
ideally,
what you're
right?
saying.
So
I get what you're
ideally,
saying.
when you have this situation where you kind of got to check in with somebody and make sure things are cool and you got to, do all these things, you don't really get to enjoy yourself. I think, especially in the younger years when your kids are
True.
young and they're growing and you're so focused on them, you're so inundated. And then they get to a space where they're teenagers and it starts to loosen up a bit. And if you're separated, to the similarity of someone who's an empty nester, I find myself on these weekends when I don't have my kids being like, okay, well, what now? Right.
Yes.
Which has led me to finding other interests, right? Like now I'm doing brunches with the girls. So, like, when I say I'm outside, it's not like I'm outside trying to be wild, but it's like, well, the kids aren't here, so now is my time to network, to go to brunches, to go to day parties, or to experience new things. I want to do like horseback riding and like all these different things I want to try now. I can do those things when they're gone for the amount of time that they're with their father, right? And experience that. So I would imagine on a grander scale, when you're empty nesting, now it's like, okay, well, what do I like to do? And I think circling back to the conversation, even of why I started Sexy After Kids, a lot of it is mom life balance because eventually everyone's kids grow up. They
It's true.
grow up, they move on. And then what do you do at that point? Like from you know what I'm saying? Ideally, you don't want to lose yourself, but like, how do you get back to finding out what you enjoy, the things that you like? Like what is that for? Because I'm learning from you, right? In that from that stance, like, what are some ways that you've kind of gotten back to learning about you, if you have at all yet? You know what I mean?
I'm going to tell you one thing, because right now I'm kind of struggling with certain things. And the struggle
Mhm.
is this: I work a lot, you know,
Yeah.
and I've always worked a lot. If it wasn't because, I was the breadwinner in my house when I was married, and then even after divorce, I was clearly the head of the household. So I've always had to work, which is fine. I have no problem working. I love my career. Actually, both of my careers that I've had, I love them. I did
Mhm.
25 years in the medical field. Now I'm in law. So I love them. But what I need to start doing is creating a work-life balance, because here's the
Mhm.
thing. I work a lot of hours, and then on my downtime, I just want to sleep. You know, you got to figure what kind of industry we're in. Like, you and I are both in two different industries, but you got to think about it. We spend a lot of our time on the phone talking to people, listening to people's problems, listening to people complain, solving people's issues, that by the time we're done and we shut everything down, it's like, okay, after we take that probably hour or two to clear our head, to separate that work
Mhm.
life
Mhm.
environment. Plus, we work from home as well. So
Mhm.
then there's that. Your home and your office are the same place, right? So
Right,
now it's
right,
like, during your downtime, you really are trying to figure out, okay, so what am I going to do? I don't want to just lay here and just be sleeping for the next 3 days, but sometimes that's all
right,
you feel like doing. So again, that goes back to what I said about, now you have to find some kind of motivation for yourself. You know,
right.
I'm absolutely going to travel. When my daughter turns 18 and she finishes high school, I'm
Mhm.
absolutely going to travel.
Where you going first? What's your destination? Like, one of your top?
I want to go to Canada. I want to go to I think
Nice.
it's called what is it, the Capistrano Suspension Bridge. I want to go to
Okay,
Vancouver. Like, I
okay,
want to go spend some time, quite a bit of time. I want to spend some time in Canada.
okay.
That's first on my list.
Mhm.
Um, One day I want to go to Okinawa, Japan. That's on my list.
Okay.
And so far, that's pretty much where I am. The whole London, Paris, England, Italy thing. I mean, one day, I guess. But, for right
Right.
now, I just want to go. I want to spend some time in Canada, you
See,
know?
I'm a Caribbean girl. Like, first of all, you can send me to Jamaica any day. I could live
Okay.
I could probably live in Jamaica and be just fine.
Mhm.
But I'm more of I wanna see all the beaches, right? Like, I want
Mhm.
wherever there's a beach, wherever there's some sand and some clear water, I wanna be there. But I also feel like I wanna go to Santorini. I wanna do that
Mhm.
whole Greece situation.
Oh, girl, I'm coming with you. I'm
Yeah,
here
I
for that
wanna
one.
do
I'm
that
here.
with and I know it's played because everybody does it now, but I wanna do Santorini with the flying dresses. I would love to go, so I don't wanna say Africa's not on my list because I feel
It's
like
not on mine.
that's
I
weird to
know.
say, being
No,
a
it's
Black
not weird to
woman.
say, and it's not on
It's
mine.
not it's not top, but I wouldn't mind going. Like, I wouldn't mind doing, like, Ghana New Year. I wouldn't mind doing, um, Seychelles, right? I wouldn't mind
Mhm.
doing something like that, but I don't know that I wanna just
Just go.
travel but I've seen some gorgeous pictures, people that have been to, like, Morocco and, Tanzania and different I've seen people in different places, and it looks gorgeous. I think I have
Mhm.
a fear of just being that far, like, that it feels so far away for
Yeah, when
me.
you're looking at it's true. Like I said,
Yeah.
I haven't explored Africa, so maybe that's why
Mhm.
it has not been on my list. You know,
Yeah.
I want to go to Spain. I'm going to Spain one day. That's going to
Okay.
happen. I do have the
Yeah.
desire to go to Spain. Um, yeah, yeah. Like I said, I'm not the cliche. Like, I don't want to go. I'm not going to go to Cancun. I'm not doing the
Mhm,
Mexico
mhm.
experience. I don't have any desire to do that. Um, yeah, I just don't. So yeah,
So what
but
about, like, things that, like, we could do now? Like I was saying earlier, like, I would love to do, like, horseback riding, right? There's some things that I want to experience that are more local. Like, do you have any thoughts about, what are some of the things that you'd wanna do now?
local. I'm
No?
s I'm still going through
Okay.
that sleep phase. No,
Yeah. But don't we all though, corporate wise? Like, listen, And
God, yeah.
especially because we use our brains so much. You know what I'm saying? Like we're constantly using our brains um when we're working, right? Like you and I, not the same field, but they cross lines,
Yeah,
right? Like
absolutely.
they cross lines a
Absolutely.
lot. And the amount of brain power that I use on other people's, can I say stupidity? Like
I mean, it is what it is, if that's what we're
the
calling it.
amount of like just the common sense, everybody ain't got it. Common sense ain't common. You
It's
know,
true.
sometimes all the lights ain't on upstairs, and I be like, these are your people. Like some of this stuff, like I get strategy and procedure and all that, but some of this stuff should just 100% be yours. Like
Oh, yeah. Agree.
it's a common,
Agree.
and so I use my brain. I say all that to say I use my brain so much, I find myself exhausted. There's a lot of things I want to do after work, but like you, a lot of times I sit down on that couch, it's
Girl,
over. It's over.
bedtime is as soon as I turn the computer off. I don't care if the sun is still out. I don't care if the birds are singing at the window. It's bedtime.
So I'm not that bad. I'm
I
not that bad,
am.
but I definitely feel like there is a space where I just get on the couch and it's hard for me to get up. Or
Just
like
lounge.
let's say I work that day and then I didn't put on like makeup for whatever, and then I'm supposed to be somewhere, but now it's 5 and now it's 5:30 and now it's 7 and and then I get to think, oh God, now I gotta get up and put on lashes and I gotta do all this stuff. And then I just don't feel like doing that. So
You
I
can mentally talk
definitely
yourself out of doing something. Like, you
100%.
literally lay
The
there and be
nap
like, "Okay,
plays.
first thing with me is
Yeah.
if I gotta put on a bra, it's probably not gonna happen."
Yeah.
That's the kind of glory of working from home. You can just kinda lounge and do whatever. So anything after that that requires me just I'm just like, "Yeah, not today. It's not happening.
I
I'm tired."
used to have this saying, I would be like, you gotta call me before I take my bra off and my wig off. If I take my bra off and my wig off,
Right.
it's over. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not FaceTiming. Don't call me. Don't come near me. Like it's not happening. Like depending on now, I ain't got no excuse because I got my little braids in my hair right now. But you know what I'm saying? Like normally, oh child,
Mhm.
please. If I
Yeah.
haven't done nothing, it's not, I'm not going anywhere, you know.
Right. No, and I
But
get
yeah, I
but you
mean,
know
I
what
think
though? Also, my part of my problem, again, with work-life balance, I have not dated. I've dealt with people here and there, but
ooh,
I have not been in an exclusive relationship since 2012, right? So my thing with that is I haven't, I mean, outside of finding my own happiness and my own whatever I like to do, because of course I like to go sit in the bookstore and read. I do that all the time. I have my little things that I like to do, but I've never, even when I was married, I've never had anyone be like, babe, let's go here. Babe, let's
mm.
go there. Let me show you something different, or just even like maybe I'll get a traveling buddy or something, but it has to be a guy.
I feel like you need a traveling buddy because okay, so I can say, granted, I'm not empty nesting, I'm more co-parenting, but still, I can
Mhm.
say I have dated and done things and tried things. How do you but what I will say about that, and I think I said this on another episode, even despite doing that, very few have met my sons. Like when I say like one,
Yeah.
two in passing, one actually, right?
Yeah.
Considering this, this new, maybe we'll see.
We'll see.
Probably. Let me not even say maybe. Let me not do that.
Time will tell.
Absolutely, absolutely in time. But no, I feel like when it comes to dating or whatever, there's definitely a balance you have to have. Obviously, still having the kids in the home. But what is that like now? Because you haven't dated for so long. And now you're like, okay, let me I mean, are you exploring? Like, where we at with that?
I really would love to date. And I'm going to tell you the thing about it is because, so my thing is my main thing, and I'm not
So I
going
want
to,
to pause for all the guys watching this. Lynette, I'm about to play matchmaker. Lynette is open to dating. She's a great career. She's a great woman. She's a great mother.
oh, thank you.
You
Thank
see the goods. You see what she looked like. Beautiful, the whole nine. You know. So all the men watching this
you.
episode who are
Right.
single, not single on
Who are
Facebook, but
single.
single on the grid, single for real. Like she can call you any time of day. Lynette is single. There we go.
Right.
That was
And
our dating ad in the middle of the episode.
Yes, and we could be social media friends
That
because you're
part.
not trying to keep your options open
That
because
part.
listen,
Right,
okay,
right. Ain't no
I'm about to
secrets.
be
Ain't no secrets around here.
47. I'm about to be 47. So I'll give
Right.
you a 10-year younger than me thing. But if you're younger than, listen, I will go back as far as 37.
Hey, listen. I feel
I'm
like that.
I'm with the younger men. I'm here
I
for
feel
all
like
of the
I
younger
feel like
men.
I feel like that 10-year thing was a anyway.
And then there's that. No. So
And then
Mo,
there's that.
right. So right now, honestly, because I haven't dated in so long, what does that look like for me? Again, and I'm not going to go into too much about this, but I have a daughter. First of all, my kids
Mhm.
are 9 years apart, right?
Okay.
So
Mhm.
that kind of is like I had one, and then when my son was 9, then here comes my daughter. So it was that weird gap between them, right? So even though my son was older, they're still the baby. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I really didn't even have a transition with that per se. But
Mhm.
anyway, but I have a daughter. So again, I'm very, very cautious about having anyone around her, you
Okay.
know.
And as
Um,
you should though,
yeah, yeah.
any
And
kid, sons, daughters, whatever,
well,
but
no,
as especially with the girl.
sons too, but it's just kind of a thing. Like when it's your
Right.
girl, because it's a man, and not saying that men don't look
Right.
at things with boys and whatever have you, but for the sake of this conversation, we're just gonna run with this, right?
Right.
Because I would hope that I'm not. Listen. So I've been very
Yeah, no,
cautious about that.
that would be a whole nother issue. But go ahead.
That's a whole nother conversation, right?
Right.
So, I've not brought like guy after guy after guy, and my daughter can to this day she would tell you she's never had a babysitter a day in her life.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
because I was very adamant about that. I'm not gonna, just put her off on somebody because I'm dating. And one thing
Mhm.
I never did was I never made my son babysit my daughter. I never held him responsible for her because that was my child. I chose to have her, and I think it's bad parenting when parents do it, and I don't really care.
Well, okay.
I don't care. It's bad parenting. My thing is if that's my child and I had that child, that is not my son's responsibility. My daughter is not my son's responsibility. So for me to say, here, watch your sister while I go
But
out.
but they're 9 years apart, so there's a huge age difference between yours. I was thinking about, like, where my kids are concerned, especially now that they're older, like, the twins are 16, my youngest is 13. I work nights sometimes, well, my part-time whatever, I'll work nights sometimes, so for me, sometimes it's like, "Okay, y'all pretty much watching each other, don't open this door, don't do whatever," you know what I'm saying?
But your kids are
Or
teenagers. It's
well,
not
yeah,
like it's a
yeah,
it's not like it's a baby or
yeah,
somebody who's 8, 9. Do you understand what I'm saying? And
yeah,
legally in
yeah,
California, for the record, you guys, you can leave your children at home. Again, what the law looks like, first of all, you can't just leave your kid at home and run to Vegas for 5 days. Let's be clear. Let's use our
that part.
brains here, right? You have to make sure that they are equipped and have everything and they are aware and they are smart enough to know to call 911, not touch nothing, not burn nothing down. So there
Right,
are stipulations in that. You can Google all that all you want to, and that's totally fine. So your situation, Apple, is a little different because your children are grown. They're not babysitting each other.
right,
You
right,
understand
right.
what I'm saying? So that's a little different. And not only that, like even when you have kids that are close in age, when they're younger and you make the older sibling, because I'm the oldest, right?
Mhm,
When you
mhm.
have them babysit, a lot of times they grow up to resent that sibling. Because what happens is
Mhm.
that child ends up getting in trouble for the younger child, or they need to watch the child, or maybe they can't go out with their friends because the mother says, well, I'm your mother or I'm your father, and you have to because I said so.
Right.
I refused to do that with my kids. And my kids have an amazing relationship to this day.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, I mean, it may work differently in that whole, I think you even said this, and I've heard this from other people. Well, I would just do what you're told and so on and so forth. And that's fine. But the way that, like, we're Gen X, the way that we were raised cannot and does not apply with everything today. That the
Right.
way that we were raised, and I'm not saying we had bad parents, and I'm not saying that the way that they worked with what they had, just like we're doing now, right?
Right,
But
right,
at the
right.
same time, it's like that did not necessarily make it right. Just like 20 years down the line, when our kids look back at certain things, they're gonna be like, "Oh, mom, did you really? That wasn't good. That wasn't cool." It's the
Yeah.
generational thing. It just works. It is what it is. You take a little bit from here and you tweak it and change it into something else or whatever, and that's totally fine. But
Mhm.
back on what I was saying, That's kind of why I haven't dated. I spent my time being a mother. Now I have attempted to date, and that didn't go over so well, because a lot of times it's like being married. Like I was in a relationship for 10 years in my marriage or
Mhm.
whatever. So after that, I literally jumped into the scene, into this totally different world.
Right.
So I looked at things pretty black and white because, again, my ex-husband, we knew each other since high school, since we were like 14, 15 years old. So things back then were easy. I like you like me, we go together. You walk me to
Yeah.
class, we go together. There was no 50 different definitions of going together or
Girl, can we talk about those definitions? You gotta
listen.
go through the
So
what is
you
oh my God, let me see if I can find that one meme. It was like, it's like cuffing season begins. It's like scouting, talking, exclusive, this, not yet, almost there, not
dating with,
quite.
dealing
Get
with.
out of here.
Yeah, and it's
Get
like,
out of
okay, I
here.
can date you and deal with you, but I can see other people. What?
Absolutely
To me,
not.
that's wrong. Like, I'm
Absolutely
not like,
not.
if I'm dealing with somebody or I'm dating with someone with the intention, see, intentionality is what we're missing, because everyone feels they can just go out and just kind of date everybody. And it's like, may the best person win. I don't feel, first of all, I'm too old to be in competition with anybody. Okay. My Nikes are
Right.
in the closet. I'm not about to sit up here and run in behind you to make sure that I'm the best woman to win. It is what it is. I don't do that with jobs that pay me, and I'm not doing it with a man. I'm just not. If you want to get to know me, that's fine. Because 9 out of 10 times I want to get to know you, but all this running behind everybody
So
and
so listen to this. This would have been good for the other episode, the one where we talked about online dating. So
mhm.
this says this is online dating stages, which essentially the real dating stages, this is what they act like. So the first hello, let me blow this up. The first hello, nothing will happen if no one makes the first move, just say hello. Then it goes to the talking stage, endless conversations on the phone. You can talk about absolutely anything, and it's fascinating. The second meetup, the first date was a success, and they like to keep trying to see if it could be something more. Exclusivity, which I kind of feel like is not necessarily true. So did I
It's
go
not what it said.
backwards?
Exclusive is not what
Oh,
it's
okay. They're going this way. That's why. Okay. It's a match. The first hello, transferring out of the dating app. I'm not going to read the definitions.
mhm.
Talking stage, first meetup, second meetup, dating, exclusivity, relationship. First of all, no.
I'm tired. I'm exhausted.
I'm exhausted.
I'm exhausted at this point.
I'm
You know,
exhausted.
and because, like I said, when I have kids, and that's also a big thing when you have kids, I don't have time to go through 112 stages of hoping. Like, I got things to do, and on top of the fact that I don't want, like, your kids watch what you do.
That part.
Okay, everything. And even if you don't bring somebody around them, they still kind of know what's going on, whatever the case may be. I don't want my child think it's okay for her to run out here and date 10 different men. And I'm not saying to confuse it with sleeping with 10 different men, okay, or whatever you choose. But at the same time, like, make up your mind. Either we're good or we're not. Either you are or you're not. Like, what are we doing? And then you have the ones who I've encountered where they start off with one narrative. Yeah, I want a real woman. I want somebody who's submissive,
Ah,
and then I start doing all of that, and then all of a sudden they're still dragging their feet in the mud because they want to keep their options open and be for the streets. I don't have time for that.
I don't do
Like,
placeholders. I'm not a placeholder.
and
Like
that needs
never,
to be
never
your
at no
range.
time will I ever be a placeholder. I will leave you alone 100%.
Yeah,
That's just what it is. I think that, but here's the thing, we can't act like there aren't women who also aren't with that. I think the thing that gets me is if you're that guy that just wants to date and F off and do whatever, then you need to match with a woman who also wants to date and y'all could do all of that together. But what happens is you get these people who want to be in the streets, they want to be for the streets, and then they find someone that doesn't, and then it's like, but I want to get you caught up and make you wait for me because I want you, but I still want to be in the streets. So I want to have you so
mhm,
caught up that you wait for me until I'm done wanting to be in the streets. And then, right, and
right.
then it's me
And then
negative.
they don't want you to date anybody
Negative.
else. They don't want
Negative.
you to date anybody else. They're not gonna give you
Negative.
the exclusive title. They're
It's
gonna
a
hide you
absolutely
on
not.
social media and everything. But
It's a
at the same
absolutely
time,
not.
they don't want you dating nobody else. Like, what in the world? I can't live like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if you're gonna be serious, then be serious. I don't have time to be decoding what in the world is happening with the dating scene. Yeah, I just don't, And again, as part of
Yeah.
empty nesting, I would like to not have to get a dog. Okay.
Well,
I'm
let
just
me
saying,
say
I would
this
like to date.
as someone who's not empty nesting, but has actively been dating or whatever, not saying sleeping with everyone, but actively
Yeah.
been dating. You're probably gonna have to get a dog.
Well, I guess beats the hell out of being a
It's,
cat
I
lady.
mean, at least temporarily, and then y'all could share the dog when you meet him, right? I mean, you're gonna have to get a dog, right? Or maybe cat. I don't know. Whatever your animal
I
is.
don't
Get a
cat.
parakeet. Get a
I don't
parakeet. I don't
cat.
know. Get a bird, right?
I'm a bird. I don't
Because
know.
it's not gonna be instant. Like it's not gonna be one of those instant things, right? Where you just so you kind of
Well,
gotta pace yourself, especially because so here's the other thing. You've been on your own for so long, and it's been you and your kids that getting out in the world and experiencing people. Like one of my friends told me, she was like, "You're gonna have to kiss a lot of frogs. Maybe not literally,
I heard that and I said no.
because people have germs, but it's a process, right? It is a process.
Mhm.
Unless you luck up, it's a process. It just
Yeah.
is what it is, right? And
But
then
there are
there's the
just equally some
compromising.
evil people in this world. Like again, I try to keep it simple, and I try to teach my daughter the same. Like if you're a good person, people should be good to you, and that's not always
They
the
should
case.
be,
But
but they're not.
it's not.
Yeah,
People will. It's like they camouflage what they're using you for. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Because it's not something tangible. It's like, well, how am I using you? Well, you're kind of using my time. I would kind of like to think that you're not like a horrible individual. I would kind of like to think that
Right.
you say what you mean to me, what you say, and you don't play childish games. Like I said, I dated a guy before, younger than me, and it's like it was cool until it wasn't, because it's like, okay, you're not putting forth any effort, and I'm trying my behind off. Like,
Well, I think that's
let's
more
figure
of the
something out.
person because,
It's
like,
definitely individual.
I don't think it's an age thing. I think it's a person thing because you
That's
could have
cool.
somebody like I've dated older men who are trash, like trash, trying to
Mhm.
relive their youth, don't want to settle down,
Yes.
or they're empty nesting now, right? So they need to
Mhm.
be back in the streets for
All
whatever
over
the
the
reason
place.
is. Right. So
Mhm.
I don't think I don't think the age is the thing that drives it. I think it's the
It's the
person
individual.
and where they decide that they want to be. But circling back to empty nesting, I mean, even with dating and finding um I think it's more so about redefining and finding yourself because for so long you've been laser focused on
Yeah.
the kids. I feel like where I'm concerned anyway, I've been more of a balanced approach because I didn't want to get to that phase, right? Like my goal was never to get to empty nesting and then I don't know what to do with myself. And now I'm the meddling parent because I'm bored. And you know what I'm saying? Like I'm so used to having them. Now I'm just in their lives and I'm preventing them from, and I'm not saying you're doing that, but I'm just saying we've seen this happen before where
Mhm.
kids go off and they do whatever and then the parent doesn't know what to do with themselves and so now they're interfering in their relationships, they're interfering in their school, like they're doing everything they can to still
Mhm.
keep the child or the now adult close, right, as if they
Mhm.
were still a child. I never wanted to be that parent and I
Well, the
don't want to
difference
be that
between
parent.
you and I and with what you just said is the fact that your kids are closer in age. Mine were 9 years apart. So I never time, first of all, time waits for no one. Let me just
That
put that
part.
out there.
That part.
And it's like one day you're sending them off to kindergarten. The next day you're preparing for senior graduations and pictures and all this other stuff, right? And that's literally what happened. So I haven't had to think about that. I mean, I've had, again, my kids are 9 years apart. So I've had kids in my life. And even after my son was grown and moved out, I still had my daughter for a nice chunk of years. So I really haven't had a chance to think about that because she was so young for so long. and she
Right.
had so many things keeping her occupied, which kept me occupied. So I never really had a chance to think like, well, what's going to happen when, because it seemed like a long time ago. And now here we are, 2024. She graduates in June 2025. She'll be 18 in
Mhm.
February of next year. So
Mhm.
we're coming along, we're coming along the stretch. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So now it like I said, for one, since my divorce, like I said, I've one thing I've learned, I've learned to I've learned to come to peace with a lot of things. Does that mean
Mhm.
that I love it, or I love everyone because the Lord said so? Now that don't say too much, because the Lord didn't say
Ah.
it. But for what it's worth, I've come to peace with a lot of things. I don't have to like you,
Mhm. Mhm.
but I've come to peace with a lot of things and a lot of people and a lot of situations. Because like I said, I've just learned over years that there are just some really bad people in this world. There are just really some evil
100%.
people. And it
100%.
sucks the way that I found that out over the years, but that's life and it is what it is, and you move on, right? So
Mhm.
now that I've come, like I said, I'm a totally different person today than I was when I got divorced, and even 5 years after that, you
Right.
know. So now, like I said, I found my happiness. I found my happy place, and that's fine. I have a great career. I have a good life. I can't complain.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so now it's just maneuvering through this dating phase. That's kind of where, like I said, while I want to travel, that's fine, but and I can at least start with this right here because it's been so long that someone has actually been serious about me.
Right.
That's what that's about. Like I don't need the Lynette, but you gotta love yourself first, and Lynette self-love, self-care, and be about this. I already done that, been there, done that, but I'd like to share that
Right.
with someone else. You know what I mean?
For
And there's
sure.
nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that.
No, there's not. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I mean, I've always said I'm not the woman who's meant to be alone with her dogs and her cats and whatever else. Like
Girl.
that's not me. I'm 100% made to be someone's wife. Now it wasn't his wife, right? At least not forever, right? Whatever that was, whether it was the kids or a learning experience or whatever, it's not that. Go and take a sip. I'm just being real. It's not
Because I
that, you know what
agree.
I'm saying? But that
I
does not
agree.
mean that I'm not meant to be for someone, right? And so
Absolutely.
I know that I'm built for partnership and love and whatever. And I know that because I know how much I have to give. So why would God give all of this to me for me to not be able to then give it to somebody else? I get that. But I'm also not in a space where I press the issue. You
Mhm.
understand what I'm saying? I'm more so in a space where it's like, okay, I want to make sure that it's right. I want to make sure that the person is
Yeah.
the one, right? I don't want to do this again to be having a third husband and a fourth husband and a whatever. Like, nah, like whoever it is next, we in this. We
Yeah.
in this, you
For sure.
know? And so I think you have to take your time, but to what I can say is, and of course, I'm single speaking to single, but what I can say though, because I have been kind of um, having that balance, bringing that balance to my life, really adamant about still enjoying me while also raising the kids. I think you still got to learn yourself. Like, as much as you want it, I think you still got to learn yourself because when that person comes in, and we've talked about this before, what does that look like? Sharing time, sharing space, phone, even if they're not even if they're not living with you, just the time commitment, the your own personal. I'm used to taking my naps and being alone, but this person wants to go hiking. You know what I
Okay.
mean? I mean,
Well, and you're
there are
right.
those considerations, and so I do think there's a relearning of yourself that still needs to take place before
But
you do that.
for me, yes and no. Because to be
Okay.
honest, I can make all the assumptions on, okay, Lynette, you need to get your mind right because eventually you're going to need to welcome someone into your space, because I've been accustomed to whatever I've been accustomed to all these years. And I can say whatever I want to say, but I really and truly won't know until it actually happens.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
yeah, that's
honestly,
true.
I can make an
That's true.
assumption on what I would think, like, okay, I'm like, you know what? Plenty of time. I can lay on my bed, watch TV, and be like, oh my God, I don't have to share a remote with anybody. I don't have to jump up and make
Yeah.
dinner. I don't have to do, if I don't feel like it, like, I can do all of that and be like, yay, I'm single. But then at the same time, is that really what, you know what I mean? Like,
No, because you miss it. You're like, yay, I get to do this. But then it's like, ah, boo, like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah,
You know what
exactly,
I mean?
exactly. And
Like,
my
I appreciate it, but nah, I think I'd rather have my person. And then I can
yeah.
parallel play. And when I don't want to be bothered, then I can go in my room and you can be in the living room, or you can go in the room and I can go in the living room. And then when I feel
Mhm.
like playing together again, right? Then we come back together. I
Right.
mean, you know what I'm saying? Like how kids will play in the sandbox, right? We're in the same sandbox, but one's over here and one's over there, right? So I
Yeah.
think there's still ways to get that balance, even when you have someone. But I want to start to bring the conversation around into a close. I looked up some tips on 5 tips for empty nesters.
Mhm.
And I think some of these are really good. So the first one says, schedule some fun. So it talks about like most parents who spend a lot of their spare time dealing with kids or napping or doing these other things, you have to be really adamant about scheduling in time just for you, even as you're approaching empty nesting, right? So that it's not like a shock when it happens.
Right.
So maybe, I don't know, like on a day when your daughter doesn't have activities or whatever, schedule something for yourself that you're not doing with her. That's just you and her, right? Like I know for me, well, again, it's different. My boys are gone half the month. So I do a lot of me time. And I'm
Mhm.
really adamant about it. And now that they're older, sometimes my me time crosses over into even when they're here. I be like, all right, y'all, I'll be back. I'll see you in a minute.
And see, and I take my daughter everywhere with me. I'm like, "Let's
Oh,
go."
no,
I'm
honey.
so
Well,
used
see,
to doing
it's
things with
probably
her.
different too because they're boys, so they don't wanna go everywhere with me, but I
Mhm.
100% I'm gone for a couple hours, I'll be back, you guys will be fine.
Mhm.
No
Mhm.
overnights, right? But to go run my errands, my Target runs, get my little peace of mind, go get my nails done or go do whatever, it might be different if I had a girl. But I can
True.
definitely say that for me having boys, it's give me some time, give me some
Yeah.
space, give me a minute, right?
Yeah.
Um, This one you may have some. It says follow the child's lead. So
Repeat
it's important to let the child set the tone for the transition. Like, because that's the thing that you're really getting ready to do, right? So, like, what is your thought on that?
I don't even know what that looks like. Well, first of all, if I let my child set the tone for that, I mean, she's gonna turn 18 and she's just gonna go to college or do her own. I got nothing. Because at the
Mhm.
end of the day, that can look different for different parents because you have some parents who their kids, as soon as they hit 18, they're out the door. They're ready to go. Regardless as to
Mhm.
where they're going, they're out of here.
That's true.
You have some kids who, as teenagers, once they hit a certain age as a teen, they don't want to hang out with their parents. It's not cool to hang out with your parents anymore in the whole
Yeah.
nine yards. My daughter loves being around me. We have a very great relationship. We're around each other all the
Yeah.
time. We go places. So in that sense, I can't, I don't know what that even looks like. Now, all I can do, I can't assume and say, okay, hey, if this is what it looks like and she goes away to college and say lives in a dorm or gets her own place or whatever, I can kind of base it off of that.
Mhm.
But as far as let her set the tone, I, mm, my daughter's not in a real hurry to get away from her mother because I am an amazing person, you know.
I
Yeah,
remember when I was a teen, but I was a different kind of teen. I was out. I was like, I'm going to Atlanta. I'm gone. Like, goodbye.
yeah,
Right, and kicking and screaming, having to come home, right? So, I can see that. I think it is dependent upon how the child is, which child, right, and what their
mhm,
personality is. I have one kid that probably is going to leave. I have one kid that's probably gonna one is automatically saying. So out of the two that
mhm.
are not, special needs, I have one that probably cannot wait to get out on his own and do something. He probably won't stray too far, but he's
Mhm.
definitely ready to do his own thing, right?
Yeah.
I have another one that flat out told me, at least right now, I think I'm gonna stay with you for a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. But he's also my one that wants to go to Japan. So who knows?
Who's to
Who knows
say?
what that yeah, who knows what that looks like, right? So the next thing is embrace technology. And so it's just talking about utilizing Skype, utilizing Skype. What did I say Skype?
You
Who
did.
uses Skype?
Because nobody. And who are we talking to? Who are we talking to? Who's Skyping us?
Did I say?
Who is
Skype?
Skyping us? Who is Skyping?
Okay. FaceTime. Okay.
So who are we face? Are we FaceTiming whom though? So we're talking empty nesting. Who are we
It's
FaceTiming?
saying it's saying utilize technology to still feel connected to your child if they go away to school, right?
Oh, of
So
course. Yeah.
FaceTime, right? I don't know. I don't do any of that stuff, so I can't think. You see, I said Skype, so
Hmm. Right.
I'm not in my lane right now. Let me get back in my lane. But utilizing technology to keep in touch with your child, right? To still feel connected even when they're away. And so then it also says the last one is start a new tradition. So maybe this family schedule doesn't make it so that certain things that you used to do, you can still do on a regular basis. So create a new tradition that fits around the current schedule, that fits around the current outlook of like where the child is versus where you are and that whole
Mhm.
thing. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on those tips or
Again, I think they're situational.
yeah.
Depends on your relationship with your children, first of all. If you have, like, I was that kid where I wasn't gonna go far, but I was definitely gonna be outside. I was outside
Mhm,
before I turned
mhm.
18, like 17, because I just wanted to hang out with my friends. I wanted to do things. And
But
I'm
Gen
and
X, we're
wow,
different. Gen X is
and,
different because
and
we were
now
we
it's
was out,
different.
we was outside as kids,
We
right?
were, we
We were
were.
outside as kids. So
Right, right.
well,
And the
once we
crazy
got to being teenagers and young adults, being outside, we weren't new to that. We pretty much were
at
outside on
all,
our own.
at all.
Outside of fending for yourself for food and shelter, we were outside.
And we figured that
So,
part out too.
and we were alone a lot, like the whole generation. So
Yeah. Yes.
I feel like for us it's a little bit different, but I do see where you're coming from.
Yeah. So like, as far as new traditions and the whole empty nest thing to keep the family dynamic going,
Mhm,
absolutely. But as a parent, like I said, I want to travel. Absolutely. That's gonna happen. I want to start dating again, but
mhm.
again, the online dating is trash. I don't
You gotta
understand
get
it.
out. You gotta get
Yeah.
out and meet some people.
I just want him to be delivered to my door like Amazon. Can I get a tracking number? You
Not
know,
happening. Not
listen.
happening. I can tell you from experience. I sat in the house for a long time, and when I figured out it wasn't happening, I said, "Let me go outside."
I wouldn't even know where to go.
Well, we'll figure it out. I told you
Yeah,
we gonna put the ad out. We gonna put the ad out. It's gonna be a
I
big
wouldn't even know
bold
where to go.
something in the description. Lynette is looking to date.
Right. And what's crazy is 'cause, like I'm not pressed for it, but I think that's a lazy version of me talking because I'm really not
Right.
pressed to be like I want companionship, yes.
But here's the thing, do you have to be pressed? I feel like that's where the society has really messed things up, right? You say you want something, and then all of a sudden it's like
All of a sudden
you're
you're
pressed or you're
bursting, you're
this.
pressed.
Yeah. No, do I have to be pressed or can I just really desire this thing for me and for my life, right? Can I really
That's true.
just want these things? So I kind of feel like it's twofold.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall, I think when it comes to empty nesting, part-time empty nest, I don't know if I'm part-time empty nesting. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm co-parenting. But empty nesting, not having your kids in the home, having to find that balance, I think it's about being open to exploring and trying new things at the end of the day, because it's a new phase and it's a phase you've never been through, right? And
Yeah.
so you're used to being so focused on the kids, and now they've entered a new phase of life. And so you have to do the same and you have to be willing to do it so that you're not the parent who is overbearing and interfering and stunning, this next phase of growth that your kids are in.
Yeah.
So I think that's it for me as far as today's episode. Do you have any final thoughts on that? I mean, I think we kind of
I think we
covered
kind of
everything.
touched on a little bit of everything, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I've touched on it, but I think let me just put emphasis on one thing you said. Don't wait until the last minute to figure out what you want to do with your
Yeah,
life because time waits for no one. Before you know it, your kids are grown. And it's just
that
gonna
part.
be
That part. Well, on that note, we will raise our glasses.
yes, we will.
Yeah, Lynette with the
I
sweet
did. I did.
ring. All right, so you know how we do. Cheers to more life, more love, and making good choices and raising great kids who go off
Oh,
to
for
be great
sure.
adults.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers.